Gosh, wouldn't it be 2 tons of fun if you were sitting in a dark theater enjoying a movie and somebody screamed fire and you lost your mind? How about if somebody actually decided to point out the person who did that when it was false? Let's bear in mind, free speech is great, but the First Amendment does not allow you to yell fire in a crowded theater because free speech does not extend causing panic when it's a blatant lie. And in this breaking story, that's exactly what we have with regards to Donald Trump and one of his top people when it comes to yelling fire in a theater and the Alien Enemies Act under which Trump is functioning with everything we're seeing since January 20th. And I'm going to show you that story in a few seconds. It's not funny, and yet it's very poignant that a top brass person has finally spoken a bit of the truth. Check this out, and I'll show you the story in a few seconds.
On day one of my administration, I declared a national emergency on our southern border. In our first full month in office, we achieved the lowest level of illegal border crossings ever recorded, okay? Even lower than 4 years ago. For years, Democrats and the media kept saying that we needed new legislation. We had to have new legislation. We needed it immediately. But it turned out that we really didn't need new legislation. All you needed was a new president.
Just needed a new president? Yeah, just not you. And then, of course, everyone's favorite liar, Mr. Stephen Miller.
And in particular, we are not going to allow a district court judge to try to become the Secretary of State. Let's just take a moment, number one, to express our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take some of the most dangerous terrorists off of America's streets and to put them into a safe environment where they cannot continue to engage in acts of terrorism or coordination with the Maduro regime. You may have seen recently an FBI assessment that was unclassified that said that the Maduro regime is using and planning to use trained Nicaragua terrorists to carry out assassination plots on American soil.
How about a little clarity on exactly what the Alien Enemies Act was created for?
What makes the administration's current use of the Alien Enemies Act so completely different from how it's been used in the past?
In a word, there's no war. That's when it's been used. That's what it was intended to be used. We passed it in 1798 in anticipation of a war with France. It's only been invoked 3 times, and there's only been deportations under it, as far as we know, only once during World War II. And that's when it was used infamously to hold Japanese people in internment. But that's the sort of crisp answer. It can be used only during war. There's no war with Venezuela.
That's right. We're not at war with Venezuela, and that's why every single thing we've seen for nearly 5 months is a complete form of screaming fire in a crowded theater. And in this breaking story, one of Trump's appointed generals just called him out. Take a listen. Breaking news, Trump's top general just undercut his invasion claims. One of the problems with making a series of brazen and hyperbolic claims is that it can be hard to keep everyone on your team on the same page. And few Trump administration claims have been as brazen as the idea that the Venezuelan government has engineered an invasion of gang members into the United States. This claim forms the basis of the administration's controversial efforts to rapidly deport a bunch of people it claimed were members of the gang Tren de Aragua without due process. But one of the central figures responsible for warding off such invasions apparently didn't get the memo. At a Senate hearing Wednesday, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman retired Lieutenant Dan Kane acknowledged that the United States isn't currently facing such a threat. In quotes, "I think at this point in time, I don't see any foreign state-sponsored folks invading," Kane said in response to Democratic questioning. This might sound like common sense. Of course the United States isn't currently under invasion by a foreign government. You'd probably have heard something about that on the news. But the administration has said repeatedly and in court that it has been. When Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act to rapidly deport migrants without due process, that law required such a foreign invasion or predatory incursion to make his move legal. And Trump said that's what was happening. In quotes, the result is a hybrid criminal state that is perpetrating an invasion of and predatory incursion into the United States and which poses a substantial danger to the United States, reads the proclamation from Trump. It added that Tren de Aragua's actions came both directly and at the direction, clandestine or otherwise, of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. So the White House said Tren de Aragua was acting in concert with the Maduro regime to invade. Kaine now says, in quotes, state-sponsored folks aren't invading. Some flagged Kaine's comments as undermining Trump's claims of a foreign invasion in Los Angeles. Trump has regularly applied that word to undocumented migrants. But the inconsistency is arguably more significant when it comes to Trump's claims about the Venezuelan migrants. Perhaps the administration would argue that Trump has halted the invasion and it is no longer happening. Kaine was speaking in the present tense. Kaine did go on to cite others who might have different views, in quotes. But I'll be mindful of the fact that there has been some border issues throughout time and defer to DHS, who handles the border, along with the nation's contiguous outline, he said. But if invasion had been happening recently, it seems weird not to mention that. And if the invasion is over, that would seem to undercut the need to keep trying to use the Alien Enemies Act. The Department of Homeland Security is certainly not in the camp of no invasion. On Wednesday, DHS posted on Facebook an image with Uncle Sam that reads, in quotes, report all foreign invaders, with a phone number for ICE. When asked about the image and whether the use of the term foreign invaders had been used previously, DHS pointed CNN to a number of posts from White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller using terms like invade or invaders when referring to undocumented immigrants. Plenty of Trump administration figures have gone to bat for this claim. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said soon after Trump's proclamation that Tren de Aragua gang members, in quotes, have been sent here by the hostile Maduro regime in Venezuela. Then National Security Advisor Michael Waltz claimed Maduro was emptying his prisons, in quotes, in a proxy manner to influence and attack the United States. We soon learned that the intelligence community had concluded Venezuela had not directed the gang. But Secretary of State Marco Rubio stood by Trump's claim, in quotes, yes, that's their assessment. Rubio said last month about the intelligence community, they're wrong. Trump administration border czar Tom Homan has said the gang was an arm of the Maduro regime and that Maduro's regime was involved with sending thousands of Venezuelans to this country to unsettle it. The question of Venezuela's purported involvement actually hasn't been dealt with much by the courts. A series of judges have moved to block the administration's Alien Enemies Act gambit, but they've generally ruled that way because of the lack of an invasion or predatory incursion, without delivering much into the more complex issue of whether such a thing might somehow have ties to Maduro's government. One of the judges to rule in that fashion was a Trump-appointed U.S. District Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. So the intelligence community and a bunch of judges, including a Trump-appointed one, have refuted the claim that underlies this historic effort to set aside due process. And now, the man Trump installed as his top general seems to have undercut it too. Every single thing Trump is doing, the use of the Department of Homeland Security, the use of ICE, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, every single bit of it is essentially the same thing as screaming fire in a crowded theater. It does not mean that we don't have people that need to be deported. It does not mean that I'm not in favor of legal immigration and removing dangerous illegal people. I'm all for it. The how matters in life. What you say, how you say it. What you do, how you do it. And what the Trump administration is essentially doing is screaming fire in a crowded theater known as the United States of America. You guys stay frosty.